This is once again the Blast R6 Major Copenhagen, where we are going to be diving on into our next matchup of DarkZero taking on NIP. Now, X, I'm going to throw it over to you. I want you to talk to me about some of the recent results out of these two teams.
Well, we've seen both teams coming in, obviously, off the back of 1-1, so both teams winning one, both teams losing one. DarkZeros, they beat Falcons. Yesterday, they struggled greatly against the Sonics. On the flip side, we're seeing NIP come in here having struggled against VP, who hasn't, let's be honest.
Yep.
But yesterday, they beat M80. So for me, for my money, got to be looking at NIP as the favourites here.
Yeah, I mean, for NIP as well, you know, they struggled against VP, and even yesterday in the interview when they beat M80 themselves, they said, well, you know, we kind of studied the playstyle that VP bring out, and we kind of tried to adapt it onto ourselves, and that was very, very visible in that game. They either tried to take something very slow, tried to solve a roam clear, or they were just on the side, and they were there, and they were shooting and gunning and blazing. But they said in the interview as well, this makes it so difficult for teams to predict if we are going to be playing slow or if we're going to be playing super fast.
Now, for the side of NIP, having won versus a team like M80, obviously M80 headed into this one with a little bit of a target on their backs. Do you feel like that victory was enough of a confidence boost for them heading into this next game?
I think it's going to be a confidence boost. NIP, they're a journeyman team. They have been in majors plenty of times. Yeah. I love to say that NIP are a tournament team. They don't tend to do too well domestically. That's them in the huddle right now, making a little bit of a ruckus in here. They don't tend to do that well domestically, and they'll hold their hands up to that, and they will say, look, you know, we tend to struggle in Latam, we tend to struggle in Brazil. We don't, you know, we don't perform our best there. Where they shine is when they get into the tournament, when they get into a bracket system, when they get into a Swiss, even when they get into a best of three. Of course, we're still in best of ones now, so we're going to temper that a little bit, but they do tend to do really well in a tournament. Always said they're a tournament team, and I can envision them going from strength to strength from here.
Now, talking about the DZ side of things and the incredibly dominant loss they ended up having versus Sonic yesterday, you know, 1-7. Were you expecting such a dominant performance coming out from Sonics?
I guess maybe expecting is a difficult word, but I feel like Sonics did have some expectations as to how DarkZero were going to play that game. Yeah. If you compare their theme park against Sonics and their theme park against Falcons, it was almost like I was looking at the same game style kind of coming out from DarkZero. Didn't really feel like they changed up much or changed up some of their game plans, and that makes it super easy for a team like Sonics to predict as to what they're doing it and counter-stratting DarkZero in that.
Now, how about star players on each of these two fronts? Anybody I should be keeping my eye on heading into this?
I mean, you can keep your eye on the whole of NIP, you know, they're very capable players. Someone that maybe doesn't always get the light shone on them, someone like Cons, you could keep an eye on for getting that plant down.
Most plants.
He's currently tournament leader with most plants. He's got 8 down at the moment. So if we go onto a very objective focused map, that could be something that flies in there.
Well, on the topic of maps, I think, Anne, what better person than you to talk me through how this one's going to go?
I'm super happy if I look and analyze this entire map and that we get to a map that both teams are actually super good on. So I feel like as if we're going to see some really good teams coming out from both these teams today. Not just good on the map, they're actually flawless in as far as this year goes. Both these teams have not suffered a loss yet, so for either of them, it'll be their first. Both teams also have their best defensive win rate on this map and their second best attacking win rate too.
All right, well, I'm super, super excited to dive into this one. But once again, Des and Ace are ready and waiting. Take it away.
Cheers, Jazz. Hi, Tim.
Hello.
How's it going, Tim?
Very well. You know, I always love an opportunity to cast a Latam.
I really thought you were finally going to break your Mr. Nice Guy persona and be like, it's always nice when NA gets 7-0'd.
I mean, it's not looking good for them at the minute, is it?
That's the most political I've ever heard. Kafe for the second time today, Tim. We had a bit of a slamming earlier on with D+ unable to bring down Scars. Will it be a similar story? Obviously, NA fans going to be hoping no, as it doesn't look too good for their team so far today.
No, DarkZero have got an opportunity to turn things around a little bit.
No, they don't, because Tim, I've got a really fun stat for you. DarkZero have never beaten NIP in the history of Siege. They lost to them 7-1 at Allied, they lost 2-0 at SI 2020, and they lost 8-7 twice at the Mexico Major. So, if history is to repeat itself, they're going to get slammed here, Tim.
Dear, oh dear.
Any chance? Look, I actually love the DarkZero boys. I know, like, I love the passion they bring. I love seeing them on camera. I'm really hoping they can do this in all seriousness. I just can't help but be a little bit alarmed after the game yesterday.
You just can't laugh at NAs.
Laugh at anyone really, Tim. You know me.
Yeah, to be fair.
You included.
To be fair, it's not unique to NA. It's just whoever is there to be laughed at the time. Valkyrie will be our final ban. That wraps things up. Ying, Twitch, Azami, and Valkyrie. Twitch being the standout one there, really, the slightly unusual one. Yeah, this is going to be a good matchup. The thing is here, you've got to look, if we look over the Swiss format, so just look in the last couple of days, we've got two teams over the last couple of games that are on different trajectories. So you've had NIP lost against Virtus.pro, and then they won against M80 yesterday. You've then got DarkZero, who win their opening game and then get slammed yesterday, as it worked out, by Sonics. So it's... Yeah, they're on very different trajectories at the minute, and DarkZero are really going to have to reverse that.
We've got that setup that I love, Tim. I spoke about this literally in the game earlier. It is an identical operator lineup on the side of NIP, where you've got the Jaeger and the Wamai together for the denial of utility. You have the Aruni and the Castle on side for more of that potential denial, as well as locking down sight lines with the Castle. And the Mute is kind of there just to help you keep drones away, to help to try and block teams from figuring it all out. Now, what I am curious to see is if they try and do this setup primarily inside of Piano, or if they try and have this set up on site downstairs by itself. Very commonly, you'll see it on the Piano stage windows and the double door that goes in towards the car. Thank you very much, Mr. Observer. Now, there we go. This is what I was thinking we were going to see. Were they going to try and drop it downstairs or on the upstairs? My only kind of question mark here is normally you see that layered where you have the castle barricade, then an Aruni laser gate. Oh, you...
I mean, that's...
We haven't seen that for a long time, because obviously you can't damage each other in prep phase anymore. So what do? Wait for prep phase to end and blow your teammate's head off with a shotgun. I love it.
We've literally done everything we can to stop that happening.
Please don't make me laugh. I've got a cough. This is not good.
NIP, find a way.
I'll tell you what you heard is that Archons are here. You've got 8 plants. I've got to remind you where the pecking order is in this squad. Bam!
There you go.
Shorty. It's a shorty as well. Like, when does that ever get a kill?
It looks like it does about triple damage to teammates. Right, let's get into it. We're a minute in. We've got DarkZero working the east-sided rappel. So for the take of the top floor, you're going to be looking at either moving in from red stairs or east. Generally, they're looking at the east side. They're not attacking top floor. It is a mining site, so it's one of the middle floor sites, but they still want that verticality because you can rip up almost all of the floor in Piano, and around that area, it's going to get you a lot of verticals down into site that is going to help you get that diffuser down. So that's the next step for DarkZero. They've got the advantage of cons being down. They just need to get themselves in the building from that east side.
They do, yep. NJR straight up on the drones as well. They want its top floor to be cleared.
There they go.
And already a 5 versus 3. Thank you very much, Psycho. Now, with that downstairs control established, sure, no nades left on side, but they can slowly just start picking away and peeling up members here. Psycho at least making up for previous mistakes in bringing down Achieved. It's a starting point here, and Canadians in and going for a plant. As you can hear, the distraction of the call coming out from the Decabi as well makes this really hard to see. Almost gets away with it and gets shut down by Muzi at the very last second. NIP just about reacts, and now things are all equal, Tim, in a 3v3.
I tell you what a kill that is from NIP. Muzi at the absolute perfect time puts the diffuser down, and this is a turnaround. It's a 1-2, kiss, kiss, bang, bang from Pino as he manages to bring things back into a 2v1 in favour of NIP now. And let's not forget, the case is down inside of site. NJR has got an absolute mountain to climb.
He does. Just not even sure where these players are as well. Doesn't have time to get back on the drones and figure out exactly where they are. He's going to have to just do this by trying to push in. At least gets a couple of shots from one to give him the idea. The trick's on him, though, is both players are sat inside a train here, doubled up for that 2 versus 1.
Not boding well for DarkZero at a point of 4 versus 3, 5 versus 3 after that initial kill. They've sort of let that lead be eaten away by Muzi and Pino. 2 kills apiece will get them over the line. Not to mention that Canadian was within fractions of seconds of getting that diffuser down, but Muzi, right place, right time, was able to stop it. That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate.
It's almost as bad. Well, in fact, no, it's not as bad as the nade on the roof yesterday. Remember when the Monty stepped in front and they got 2 players down off the back of it?
Yeah.
Same sort of story. The only thing, well, not the only thing, but the main thing I'm alarmed about from that round is that it's the real obvious one that I'm sure everyone in chat is also looking at and going, well, yeah, they won that 4 versus 5. Although it came down to being very close in the 1 versus 2, I'd still say for NIP, realistically there, you've lost 2 players and killed 5 on the other side. not the biggest challenge for them in that first round, and here they will not be making the same mistake of seeing someone blow through someone else's head with a shotgun. That's the only one carrying that this time around. Is Cons is like, right, if you're gonna come in with a shotgun, I'm the only player allowed a shotgun. Cons is the one with the smoke in this round.
It's going to be a lot of top floor presence again from NIP. They are holding on to a reading room this time, so a real preference being shown towards the mid floor for NIP, and it doesn't surprise me, Des. You know that I've been banging on for the longest time.
Here we go, chat.
I'm not going to get deep into it. I'm just going to say
Get yourself ready. It's story time with Father Tim.
It's not. Those mid floor sites have been statistically often the best defensive sites for a long time, but kitchen and bar just seem to be prioritised a lot of the time. So NIP...
Come on, Tim, talk to me about bar and cocktail.
That's it. I hate it, but I will not be drawn. No, NIP, obviously, you know, they're leaning into that, and they're showing us that those mid-floor sites are very, very viable. They've locked down mining. They can pretty much... They're not going to do exactly the same thing, because they've not started with a team kill, so that's a positive. If anything, they're in a better position than they were last time, this time, to hold on to reading, which I would argue is actually the stronger of the two mid-floor sites, because it doesn't have those external windows.
I think with these mid-floor sites, the point we always go to on them is it's a lot like attacking the top floor, because you still have to clear the top side of the map and then working to get there in time. Yes, he will just in time. You still got to clear your way through the top and then worry about another layer of flooring. You are more susceptible to snow pushes, walks at white, for example. So there are alternatives that attacking teams can use, but I would argue in probably 90% of attacks onto these, you know, second floor sites, you are always going to see people start by clearing out the top floor first and then working their way down. DarkZero are no exception to that rule. They want to make sure they've got the vertical control first. They've had to force players back off of Pixel. They've got more of them stacked down white, for example, around bathroom. They're having to burn through tons of utility just to try and make this work.
Giving quite self-sufficient there, just coming in, using those flashbangs to take out the Wamai magnets, allow him to then deploy the air jab safely. Going to take the shield down as well. That's the Rotero coming in from Canadian. Leaves Psycho a little bit more exposed inside of Freezer, but there's 1 minute 20 left to go, and they're not really moving here yet. They've got Pamba across the mid-level, but other than that, there's still a lot of top floor control for NIP, Des.
They've got enough control here that they can't be shot in the back from top red, for example, so it was important for them to get that control. But now they've got that, I've locked it down with a Nomad to saying, okay, they cannot retake piano off the back of this now. We've got enough cover. So really, DarkZero here are going for a very minimalist strategy, just taking the ground they need rather than what they would like to have, i.e. the entirety of the top floor. Now, Pamba's the first one to come up against Cons, and well, Cons, bit of a revenge tour after that previous round, finds himself one, removes that threat off towards Snowside and Pillars, and now it's about what else can come through for either side. One more kill flashing back in as DarkZero are down to only 30 seconds to make this work.
This is it. Time could be the sixth man for NIP here as they start taking some damage. Cons and Psycho have both had chips away at their health. Canadian's going to blast through the wall, but there's an object just in his way that's going to prevent those bullets really landing.
Muzi.
Now, 19 seconds left to go. It's go time. But as you say, Muzi maybe not been picked up here. They've just seen him, but no! Muzi going to find a kill wizard elsewhere. Manages to pick up two, and NIP in a 4v1. They're going to close out the round, and it's going to be 2-0 now to NIP.
I absolutely love that. I spoke a little bit about 60 seconds in, with about 6 seconds left on the clock in that round. I was saying, okay, DarkZero are taking the minimal amount of control they actually need to make this happen. What do you see? Up on the top floor, NIP still holding down around Cocktail because they haven't been forced away. And this is the danger of them trying to use ground that you haven't previously cleared. We have two players walking in through bar. Muzi sat there like, oh, I guess there's kind of free kills to collect here. Didn't get a free kill by any sense of the imagination. Was unfortunate to get spotted out and had to force it into a 1v1. But they assumed there was only Pino on the upstairs, and they were absolutely wrong. There was still Muzi hanging up here, as you can see, and that suddenly removes all control they have of Pillars. They have no top floor control, just really overstretching their bounds are a little bit DarkZero and paying the price for it.
It just feels a little bit like, you know, as I mentioned at the beginning, you've got those different trajectories for these two teams. DarkZero come in here on a loss to day 3, NIP come in on a good win. And it's just really sort of setting the scene here for me that we're seeing it in the performances in the server. NIP playing with a lot of confidence. You know, they're losing men occasionally, but they're not letting it rattle them, not letting it worry them. They're just sticking to their game plan and playing it very well. Completely avoiding top floor. They're going to be down to kitchen this time, and then I think we'll see them just cycle back through those sites.
Either this is a genius read or it's just a really unfortunate matchup for DarkZero because we've got Cons on the clash in this round. Now, for those who maybe aren't or weren't aware, obviously Monty carries a massive shield that you can't hurt him through outside of tossing impacts and C4s, and even then aren't guaranteed to kill him, even with 2 or 3 going his way. One operator that does do really well against him, things like Legion obviously help as well, but the Clash is really, really good. Just quick entry on the top floor. But the Clash is really good because she can damage him through his shields. So even when he's stood there, if the Clash is bearing down on you, also bulletproof on the other side, she keeps on zapping away, your health is already depleted, it makes you far more susceptible to those C4s and impacts that can come out later. So it feels like a really smart matchup really on the NIP side, and for DarkZero, if they haven't seen this Clash, they could be walking into a really sticky situation. It's not like the Clash is the 100-0 like perfect counter and they can do nothing about it, but it's really going to make things frustrating for DarkZero. That means they're more likely to lose the round.
No, of course, as you say, one of 2 direct counters to Monty, with Oryx being the other. Oryx's dash able to knock him off his feet, but not going to be present for the defenders. But the Clash
always a bit of a risk because if a Monty's by himself,
it is always risky.
Risk.
But yeah, it's, you know, the Clash should be more than sufficient here if Cons can. The important thing for Cons here is movement. It's about movement and exposure. Obviously, the rear side of Cons, even with the shield, is still susceptible to damage. He needs to keep himself in place, needs to be in the right place at the right time as well. Now then, DarkZero starting to make some good progress here. They're on time for getting that floor open to use the verticals. They've got the hatch open into Freezer. So at this point, NIP, they're going to be heading out of sight, essentially. They want to hold this from outside now, because with those vertical angles getting opened up, it makes it perilous to stay in those positions. So they've almost sort of got to invite DarkZero in here and play for the retake.
I mean, the big one is follow the Monty, because he's going to be the spearhead. A Canadian has got the diffuser in back pocket as well. Wherever he sets himself up, and by the looks of it, with the drone coming in towards Prep, you know exactly where he's coming in. Bakery's going to be the play. A couple of players squaring off against him here. Now the question is, does Cons rotate over here and look to contest? I imagine that he will.
Going to see some of those explosives just thrown out at the Monty, only doing a tickle of damage, really. It's certainly not going to slow Canadian down whatsoever. The march continues on into Bakery, but they just can't seem to find this kill.
Clash.
And there you go, Clash comes over. Pino manages to pick up Pamba. Canadian's in all sorts of trouble here, Des. Prep for that. He's going to get taken down by Psycho. Wizard finds Gaveni, and this is falling apart for DarkZero at the seams once again, and it's going to be a complete sweep of defensive sites for NIP to kick things off on Kafe by the looks of things. 10 seconds for Achieved and NJR to do something, anything, but no, all they can do is be cut down in their places. Psycho going absolutely wild in the round. It's flawless for NIP, not just the rounders, but the game so far.
Looks like we're heading up towards potentially 5 wins in a row for NIP against DZ. As mentioned earlier on, DZ have never beaten NIP, and even with all the player changes that have taken place over the years, that doesn't look to be any different. DarkZero taking a timeout here, one that is very, very sorely needed, Tim.
Yeah, not a surprise whatsoever. Really getting... The thing is, it's not just about the score. If you'd had 3 really close rounds, for example, then you look at this and you think, right, OK, a few rounds have not gone our way there. But if I'm on the side of DarkZero, I'm looking at this and thinking, you know what? Things are going from bad to worse here. We've been beaten 4v5 in round 1, and now we've just been flawless in round 3. Like, things are just getting worse. We're not getting close here. NIP are well on top of this.
For me in that round, just to kind of break it down a little bit more, DarkZero did a lot of the right things as well. Cleared out top floor quickly with the Amaru, got the book to work about 130. It's kind of the benchmark I've always gone with on Kafe. If by 130 we're left on the round, teams are starting to open up the floor, you're looking good, you're on time. The difficulty was they had all this vertical control, but had no way to really leverage it. What they were looking to do was to force players off site, kill them whilst they were inside a bakery, or better yet, force them back on towards site with the Monty and then pick them up with those vertical angles. But the response from NIP was genius. You had the Clash nearby to challenge the Monty in case he did get inside a prep, which he did, but didn't need to be challenged because he was very much exposed there with no real support from the rest of his team. And they committed 3, if not 4 players towards the bakery hold once they realized that's exactly where the Monty was coming from. So if DarkZero can't break open bakery, all that vertical control means absolutely nothing, and they're left floundering. So it was a very good read by NIP into what the main objective of DarkZero was in that round that gave them, frankly, another really, really comfortable win. A flawless round to boot. DarkZero, I think, have done the right thing in having a timeout here. We'll see if anything changes, because so far their actual lineup itself, not really a big change.
Into the action phase we go then, and back to our original site as suggested. NIP just doubling down basically on what they've done so far, and why not? It's been super successful. This time actually holding a higher line, Des. They've got the mirror inside a washroom, the castle's in piano. We have seen a little bit of castle from them before as well on this site, but just deciding to hold right up into piano. I think last time they were just a little bit deeper, more sort of freezer, bar back storage, but right up into washroom now.
I mean, they've also dropped away from bringing the Wamai here, which has kind of been the staple of their lineup so far. So even NIP acknowledging, all right, you know, but they're the ones who have to change and figure out how to beat us. They want to still keep them guessing here by putting up another challenge, not presenting the exact same defense that we saw in the previous attempt of this site. So I like there's a couple of changes coming in. I've looked back again to how it played out last time for DarkZero, though. They just struggled to get themselves any real control inside top floor. And even when they managed to force a player back from Pixel, they just ran towards bathroom and sat there. There was no real threat coming in against the NIP side. So for DarkZero, we've kind of got to get over that sometimes slow gameplay we see coming out of them. They've really got to take command, take some risks here and go aggressive.
You just see the left of the very left side of that top red wall being opened up there. The reason for that is it just offers maximum safety when moving through. You've got that hard wall on your left-hand side, meaning that you can get in there easily. I think Wizard was led prone next to stage, though, just working from his silhouette. I could be wrong, but if he is, it's another danger that DarkZero need to deal with. But for me, Des, so far, the problem in the first 3 rounds, the problem continuing now is the speed of DarkZero. Just a little bit slow at getting themselves in and getting those opening kills.
I was going to comment that a Twitch ban feels to really be stinging them a little bit here as well, to take out mirrors, for example. But here, there's a bulletproof camera inside of piano that can see underneath the castle barricade on the cigar window, cigar doorway, sorry, and it gives them all the access to see the feet, they love feet, inside of cigar to get free kills like you just saw. They were ready and waiting. Now, Gaveni has swung in, quite risky, but has got away with a kill inside a cocktail. So that advantage is somewhat, air quotes, lost here, and now Moose is going to be the one to try and retake some of this top floor. Oh, no. No, not like this. Not like this. Does he know that he's sat inside of the default spot? I don't think that he does here, but if he gets away with this, this could be trouble. Moose is a little bit penned in.
He really is, but Moose is one of those players that can just work a great escape, Des. He knows that there's one on his right. He's going to sneak through. They've no idea, Des. They've absolutely no idea, Moose. He sees him at the top white.
Shoot
How's
the booty.
About that for trigger discipline? He's going to hold on, but he holds on too long. And Moose is going to be punished. 15 seconds left to go. Psycho, Wizard, they're trying to hold on, Des. They just need to try and play the clock. They need to burn the time. Wizard, he manages to find one. It's Canadian taken down, but he can't find another taken out. 90. Psycho gets Gaveni. 2 seconds left to go. They're going to have to make this plant stick.
He's got to force the 1 versus 1 here and now. Knows where the plant is going down, but does he know about the long angle? Surely, yes, he does not. NJR gets the kill. That feels like a real smash and grab for DarkZero, because if Muzi got those kills upstairs, that was round done and dusted.
DarkZero managed to get themselves on the board then, get kicked off, and that is exactly what they needed, and it's not come a moment too soon, especially after that tactical timeout. It's just going to give them the opportunity there to maybe feel like they've got themselves a little bit of an answer. They've had the tac timeout, they've had the discussion, put it into practice, and they've got themselves a round.
I want to know what kind of gave him the call there, because he sprinted as well up towards Cocktail, which suggests that he didn't know the player was that close. Maybe he was actually choosing to rotate around and push a different angle there, maybe work his way around pillars, above snow, for example. And then found, oh, what are you doing here? Here's a free kill. Again, unfortunate for Muzi not to walk away with that, but DarkZero managing to pull it together there in the dying seconds and finally get themselves around on a board. Round on the board, even.
I think NA probably breathe a collective sigh of relief there as well.
You can't breathe yet, Tim. They've got to hold on for a little longer.
It's just that there's not going to be an NA 14-0. Imagine the memes coming out of that if it just went back-to-back 7-0s against NA.
They'll have to just rent out a few private jets to the airport then, I think, Tim. They'll get home sharpish.
They certainly will. And DarkZero getting themselves back into things to a degree. They really need, for me, the next 2 rounds. I think they need to level this out at 3-3. NIP, I expect to be pretty ruthless coming in on the attack. I think that they will be good. NIP historically have struggled with time a little bit. They are one of those teams that we see sort of slow, methodical, and sometimes just take a little bit too long to get themselves into an executable position. So that's something that DarkZero could potentially take advantage of once they get onto the defense. But yeah, certainly need one more. For me, they need 2.
I mean, kind of ironically, that used to be the problem for DarkZero as well. Definitely something they've fixed since making the changes that they have, bringing in Gaveni and Achieved over the last year or so.
I think we've definitely seen a bit of it today. We've seen,
that
a
last
little
round
bit
came down
of
to 3 seconds.
Yeah, we've definitely seen a little bit of a pace issue for DarkZero on the attack.
But then equally, Kafe can be like that, right? I actually really enjoy watching Kafe games because generally as attackers, it is really hard to break. It can be a little bit one-dimensional, I get that. You know, start inside red, get control of piano, move your way down pixel. Maybe if you feel a little bit fruity, push in through bar. It becomes very samey after a certain number of rounds of watching it, but I also think it's a really good way to test the team's mettle on the attack inside. How well can they break through what normally can be really difficult, defenses to crack open?
Pino's been in this position consistently throughout these rounds, and he's going to be holding on to it again. He's got the Jaeger ADSs placed by Wizard in the prep phase that are just going to be helping him stay in position. Psycho just thinking about chasing that drone, could be challenged, won't quite have the angle. NJR can't find his man. Psycho, what is going on here? How is he getting away with this?
I mean, he's a psycho, Tim. He does what he wants. He goes where he wants. Keeps on moving his way across this top floor, and so far, 2 minutes have elapsed, and DarkZero have really struggled to make these members move. Now, they are close to being able to push inside a side, but one, you've got to worry about the verticals, and two, like we said before, without enough map control, you can't move very freely as DarkZero. They're just sat here waiting for someone to run into an angle, and finally the opportunity presents itself, and Pamba doesn't land a single shot.
And the problem there is that all it does is alert NIP as to your position. Now, this is good from Canadian, going to be opening up that site wall, and that's definitely going to change up the dynamic a little bit. Gaveni manages to find Wizard, 5 versus 4.
Oh,
good entry, and a beautiful second from Gaveni.
Even without that top floor control, they're just winning the gunfights here. Down to a 2 versus 3 for the side of NIP, and still, Pino's getting tagged on the top floor. I thought for a second he might get killed on the drop, but no, held off for now. Rotating his way around, looks towards the back of another player, but no! Doesn't even go for the man in the first place. Pamba gets to shut down. DZ find 2 rounds. It might not be the prettiest, Tim, but all that matters is what you can see at the top of your screen. It's 3-2 to NIP.
Yeah, essential round for them to win there, and they've absolutely smashed that, really coming back well after that tactical timeout. Whatever was said certainly worked, let's put it that way. They get themselves 2 in a row, and NIP certainly a little bit quieter than they were after the first few rounds.
Whew, I was worried again about the lack of control they really had of the map. I mean, you saw the push coming around top red from NIP to saying, well, they haven't really taken top red control, therefore we can do what we please here. But Gaveni was the difference there. 2 big kills coming out, meaning they retain snow control, can push inside a site, and that is when NIP start to hit the panic stations. Great recovery from DarkZero so far in the second quarter. We're going to end things off downstairs once again inside a kitchen, and Cons is back on that clash. Last time here, didn't use it to contest the Monty directly. Was kind of more there as a last resort if they needed it, but his job was actually watching the vertical angles and keeping his team aware of what angles was being watched by who.
Yeah, it does just give you that little bit of safety to play. As I said, once the verticals get opened up, we often see the defenders move off-site, and the clash just means that you can keep that presence there, a little bit more safely. You can keep on top of whether the push is coming in, when they're getting aggressive, what angles are being worked from. So I like the idea. We'll see just how effective it is again here in round 6. Final defensive round for NIP. They are going pretty well so far, but DarkZero just waking up and managing to reel them back in.
Pamba helping out at least and getting some...
Oh,
the timing! Such unfortunate time for Wizard, but great play by Pamba as well, in a position where he can help out on the white corridor and then immediately go up towards the roof and join his team. So really bringing along the Amaru here more for the mobility than any kind of cheesy up-hatch plays or down-hatch or inside windows, anything like that. It is more just for that quick pace of getting around the map. Great start for DarkZero once again, though.
Psycho just going to be trying to hold down the bakery, and yes, DarkZero again in with the entry, looking to take advantage of that. 3-3 at this point with the way things started out. It'd be a fantastic turnaround for DarkZero, so they're going to be more than happy with this start. Just getting the drones positioned, watching for those flanks. They've been hurt once or twice so far. They're going to try and make sure that that is not going to be the case again. The focus here is going to be getting Achieved in next, in towards that mid-floor and getting that skeleton key, opening up the ceiling above the heads of the defenders.
I think Canadian there. Did you know? I think the guy's inside BIP actually, not around bottom white. I thought for a second he was looking to challenge out pretty aggressively. I can't help but wonder how differently the scoreline might be if we'd seen DarkZero, how they've been over the last 2 rounds, from round 1, and things have been that little touch different. Maybe they'd have been the ones in the advantage here at 4-1, maybe even 3-2 themselves. Either way, white control established. They're not going to get away with this as well. They try and get the freezer wall opened up. There is still Muzi lurking around. So although they've lost Wizard, they've immediately moved a second player into his place.
Yeah, and it just shows how critical that area can be, particularly in stopping any sort of freezer-based push, where you're going to drop in and try and get the diffuser down behind that bomb chassis just outside of the freezer door. You can hold that down from the VIP room. Essentially, you're going to use the soft wall through into freezer to continue challenging it. So it's something that DarkZero are going to have to clear out, and that's why NIP are just throwing manpower at it.
Here we go now, really trying to break it open inside a bakery. Remember that this was the big sticking point for them last time. It seems to be the same again here. Smoke's coming in to guarantee at the very least the bakery gets opened up by these Selmas. Not able to see it through the smokes, not able to shoot it off the wall as much as they might try. Now in a good spot then to make this push happen. Here comes Gaveni rounding into one and just domes Muzi where he sits.
That's great. That's the one from Canadian.
Actually stole it, yeah.
Yeah, that's Canadian just going to open things up with that kill, but here comes Pino retaking very important ground. 15 seconds and Cons could really be the difference on the clash. This is when that sort of operator comes into their own. Psycho manages to find NJR from behind, but they catch him as they drop. 2v2. 3 seconds left to go, and surely the clock is going to tick down. Canadian, he's trying to get that diffuser down, but no, found out by Pino, shut down, and that's going to be NIP taking a 4-2 ha.
It's again the late round flanks coming out from NIP. I know it wasn't really a flank because he'd been sat there the entire round, but Psycho wasn't deterred by all the walls opening up around him inside a bakery. He just tucks in tight, gets a freebie inside a small bake, and from there, well, you see everything kind of started to fall apart. They knew that they had to force sight at that point, DarkZero. They'd lost control. They didn't have freezer. They didn't have bakery. They just had to force in and try and make things happen. So again, really good disruptive play coming out from NIP. Again, DZ maybe looking at that and going, the 3-3 half would have felt a little more fair if we'd woken up a round or two earlier. But it's NIP up at 4-2 as they now move on to the attacking side.
It's going to be straight up to the top floor, a site that we haven't actually seen defended yet. NIP not choosing to go to bar and cocktail, instead using the mid-floor sites and kitchen. DarkZero are going to go straight up to the top of the map.
What is that lineup?
Hold on.
Surely not.
An interesting choices there. We've got the Ossa, the Gridlock, and the Glass all stand out immediately to me, Des.
I imagine they changed one or two of those away, surely. If so, if not, we might just be about to see one of the most balmy lineups I think I've ever seen on this site. Normally you see like a hard committing towards, okay, it's going to stick, sure. Normally we see a committing towards, you know, smokes for the Glass, and sure they've got 4 of those on side, but you might see like a Capitao on side. But having the Ossa and the Amaru here together, as I said, we might be about to see some real madness, and I'm here for it, Tim.
I mean, yeah, you might have a nice little combination between, say, Cons and Psycho, where Cons will put a Talon shield on a window, and then you could get some smokes in. Psycho can play from sort of behind that, but just have that extra protection from the shield. You know, we might see all sorts of little...
I think if DZ peaks something like that, they are morons.
Well, this is it. It makes it very difficult to play into. So it could be that we see some interesting little combinations coming out of those. I mean, we're interested to see particularly whether Psycho and Cons work together or whether the plan is sort of separate.
Really here, Gaveni becomes the centerpiece of this defense for DarkZero. Playing on the Warden, we've seen a lot of teams employing that, almost a 100% pick rate, I'd say, as far as I'm concerned, unless banned, which is quite rare, interestingly. Just one of those operators that doesn't really draw bans, but teams know that you have to be able to play him when you know how much there are yings around, smokes, flashbangs, you name it. So overall, a bit of a headache. And here we go. Pino's in on this top floor.
No, he's not.
Okay.
Gaveni well ready for that, even with the, I won't say recent changes, but the changes that we saw to Amaru that just gives that sound cue a little bit later when she's coming through the window. Just makes it a little bit more of a surprise, but it wasn't a surprise for Gaveni. Stood waiting and takes Pino down. Not a great start for NIP.
Nah, I mean, this is the problem, right? They haven't really got any of the range clear that you might normally see of, like, you know, frag grenades coming in on Iana and Sledge. That bulletproof, for example, will likely stay stood up the entire time on Pixel, so that's not an angle that NIP can easily play into. So they're a little bit stuck here. He was kind of their backstab. He was going to be the one to unsettle Gaveni and bring him down, but the fact that Gaveni found the kill really turns it back in towards DarkZero's favor.
It does, opening up Pixel spot, but still losing a couple of operators along the way. Your Glass is gone, your Ossa's gone. This is not looking good as Muzi gets shut down across bar back storage. Wizard just trying to find himself an angle through that exact same place. You're playing into mirror windows. You've already lost men to them. You've got to start asking those questions. But at this point, Wizard just has to try and get something going.
It's where you can look into things like the Twitch ban here from DarkZero and see why it's so powerful for them and why they've opted to ban it away here. Is these two mirror windows have completely nullified this attack. Again, if we manage to see Pino get in and get a couple of kills, open up Cocktail, they can flood inside a bar, they can get plants down with the Ossa. But when Cons tried to get the plant down, he was being shot because they didn't have enough control elsewhere. So now things have fallen apart. All they can do is look on and say, right, better luck next time. It'll be 4-3 to NIP still, and NIP, I expect, won't go quite as cheesy coming into the next round.
No, I think we do talk about these little pauses in different ways. Sometimes 1v4. Sometimes taking 20, 30 seconds and just taking your hands off the keyboard can be about trying to bait players in, see if you can get a kill or two, start leveling the numbers. That wasn't really the case for NIP there. I don't think it was certainly an opportunity to have that discussion. Just, you know, burn the rest of the round and have essentially an unofficial tactical timeout. But for me, I'm just not sure about that Pino play, Des. You know, I don't want to be overly critical because sometimes, you know, those unexpected rushes do work and we see them have an impact. But for me, it just wasn't really the time for it. You're 4-2 up, it's your first attacking round. Just go in and play it. You know, go in and play it. You don't need to try the sort of cheese Amaru 30 seconds in through the window. For me, just try and play a good attacking round, set your stall out. It's an important round. You get that one, you're 5-2 up.
High risk, high reward to it.
Yeah.
If you break DZ there after they've had a shaky first half, they're suddenly panicking for the entirety of the second. But again, nice attempts. I think Pino maybe just about a second too soon there because you heard the flashes coming in, the smokes, they were being eaten by the ADSs. He arrived into a very much normal battlefield and was immediately shut down. Good response out of Gaveni. Like we said, though, he was the centerpiece of that defense on the Warden. Now we change things over. Going to find ourselves downstairs in mining, and we've got the Maestro on side. A pick that we don't really see all that often anymore, Tim.
No, I mean, we've got an interesting attacker lineup as well. We've got it on both sides to work with. Certainly both teams giving us plenty to think about.
I even looked at theirs. Yeah, Jesus Christ.
We've got the full Lion Dokkaebi blitz. That, you know, that's real sweat meta right there.
Jesus. I mean, if they pull this off, fair play. But at some point, we might have to find ourselves going back to the more, air quotes, normal comp.
They're just going. They're going to go in through the.
I love this. Just storm site. Yeah, forget about it. Forget about trying to clear everything. Please.
Surely this is the plan. Wizards lining up on the window. You've got a Gon 6 knocking about, I'm certain of it. I'm sure that I've seen the Gon 6 pulled out, and it's just going to be open the window and bang, he goes. They're shooting it instead. Wizard, he's ready to go, and in he goes. The smoke is there. He knows what's ahead of him, but no, somehow NJR manages to get an important kill. Cons, he's going to try and stick this though. It's 3 versus 5. If they do, it's still winnable, and that will be the case. 2 versus 5, but they've got the players just outside of the window. This could be a 10-30 seconds for DarkZero, Des.
This is absolutely ludicrous. They've still got so much utility on side as well. We've got 2 more scans to come through. They can double jump out this, and they are pretty much guaranteed to get a kill. They might lose a couple in the process. They've already found 2 going down. The hold is looking fantastic, but don't go peeking windows just yet. It's a quad kill for NJR. Psycho's down on his backside. DZ win it out again and pull us all square at 4-4. This is unreal.
This is a wild ride. A wild ride here on Kafe. I think they've been having a NIP maybe tucking into a few too many of them sugary treats from the bakery, Des. They coming in here absolutely hopped up on energy and just flying in through any window that is in front of them. And I've got to say, NIP, it is not working. DarkZero, while maybe not completely ready for it. NJR, the beauty from the Alder to take the blitz down. Honestly, I think if he loses that fight, the round goes a different way.
No, I agree completely. The fact that he sprayed whilst full white flash shot towards the feet of the blitz and got the kill on himself is just honestly ludicrous, and obviously denied the last one by Pam. Jumps out into the Claymore, but at that point, who cares? Round 1, job done. Here we go for Reading and Fireplace, and is our 3rd choice side. This has turned out to be a thoroughly entertaining game, Tim.
It has. It has. There's going to come a point where NIP need to stop doing what they're doing.
It might be now, looking at the lineup.
I think it's probably going to be 9. You've lost 2 rounds, one with an Amaru zipping inside the first minute. I'm not saying that was the entire round loss, but it certainly didn't set you up for success. You then come back and double down on it. You tried to go in through the window with Blitz. Ooh. Yes, they got the diffuser down, but they just didn't get the kills that they required. And I think there comes a point where you've got to say, we've given away our lead. We now need to make sure that we win this. Because otherwise, if DarkZero win this game, you are going to be looking back at round 7 and round 8, and that is going to be where you pinpoint the loss coming in.
This is one of the more beautiful rounds I've seen when it comes to the kind of chess of operator selects. You know, the fact that we have the Solus on side for 1 to sort of deny away the Flores and the Brava, but also the Brava's looking to hack in and get rid, for example, of those Evil Eyes. They haven't got anything to get rid of the mirror windows still, so that's something else for a bit of consideration. The Mute's there to kind of slow down the drones. It's just the back and forth between either side really makes for an interesting compositional kind of comparison between the two. But for me, it's going to be about the Solus and whether or not we see these drones denied away. If Muzi is free to roll on through, there goes one already. That's really critical. If he gets through and gets the Evil Eyes, for example, that's going to negate a lot of what Canadian brings to this round, because that information is just so powerful.
It is indeed. Rotero drone going to be taking out the Vulcan canisters of Goyo as well. So NIP certainly just trying to forge a path at the minute through the top floor, through all the utility that they are going to be facing up against. Of course, the important point with the Brava drones as well, if they pick up the Maestro cam, it is also on the defenders to recognise that that has happened, you know, to smash the Maestro cam, to burn through that utility and make sure that the attackers aren't getting any advantage from it as well.
Still an interesting spread hold here as well, where they're really controlling the second floor. It does leave them a little bit thin on the upstairs, and Gaveni is the one who, unfortunately, is the victim of that setup coming out from DarkZero. NIP find 1 after forcing their way down white. Surely not. I thought for a second, honestly, we were going to see Psycho just fly over the top of this banister and he would pay the price. Pamba equally has cindered the barrel of his gun. He knows that he's hovering around top white here and is just wondering what comes next. Does he dare C4 up there, though?
It's a tricky throw. There's not much room to sort of be threading the eye of a needle with that one, but it'd be a nice attempt. He certainly thought about it, but just decides, nope, there's more time to be wasted. And he'd be right at the minute, as Psycho has just dipped himself too far away. Rotero drone is going to head down towards site once again.
Rotation.
NIP have got good top floor control here. The honest truth is they need a few kills.
Good vertical control being established, and I mean, for NIP, they were forced to open their own rotate between washroom and the site itself. NJR finding himself on his backside again, a little bit isolated here. You can see members of DarkZero, like Achieved, rotating their way through the map and not really here as the execute is taking place, and Pamba goes completely the wrong way. Control so far with NIP, but the clock is not, Tim.
Cons is going to be getting that diffuser down. That's going to give them the extra seconds that they need. Wizard is in place with the cover manager to take down Achieve. Canadian, not really much of an option, but to go and get NJR back on his feet could be a good call. Brings it back to a 2 versus 5, but NIP, meanwhile, have got the diffuser down. Cons
Verticals,
takes an awful lot of damage there, but not enough to put him in the grave. There's a kill from Psycho. Flawless round, NIP. As soon as they just knuckle down into that more textbook attacking style, they get the job done.
Yeah, showing even with a really slow comp, you know, you're seeing 2 drone-based operators coming in with the Brava and the Flores. You need really a good 60, 75 seconds for them to get all those drones out and doing work, which is why things got a little bit, I don't want to say chaotic, but when you look at the clock down to the last 5 or so before a plant's going down, yeah, understandable. But it was nice because NIP again got control from what they needed. DarkZero sat quite far back as well. There were 3 or 4 players running around on the second floor. You had Achieve rotating down on the ground floor. Only Gaveni left by himself on the upstairs, and he got punished for that as well. So leaving themselves a little bit thin on the ground, and NIP were taking every free kill they could find in the round, played it incredibly well. They now pulled themselves ahead once again up to 5 and 4.
I'm interested in this site now because we are back to the top of the rotation. They've been through 3 sites now, DarkZero, so they're deciding to just go back through the same. Back up to Bar and Cocktail. It's the site they won in round 7. But let's not forget, that's the round that NIP had the Ossa, the Glaz, the Amaru, Pino zipping through the window didn't work. You know, it was a very different attacking style from NIP for that round. This time we're seeing a much more sort of textbook approach to it. We've got the Flores, we've got the Sledge, we've got the Capitao. It's not going to make it easy for DarkZero. It's going to be a tougher round than they had in round 7. This one could be pivotal.
There's two things I'm really watching out for in this round, and those are the nades in the back pocket of Pino and Cons, specifically to get him below to destroy those mirror windows that, as we said, with the Twitch ban coming in, are going to be really powerful, and also towards the smokes of Wizard. Those are the two real answers they have here to deal with the mirror windows that absolutely brutalized them last time around. They were trying to attack into the top floor. So keep a close eye on those three operators, see what it is they're trying to focus on doing. We'll obviously follow along as well, but for me, they have to be the pivotal parts of this round in trying to unsettle Canadian, and probably most importantly, Gaveni, who's having a good game so far.
We're going to have pressure on the cocktail balcony window straight away once again. That was the position that Pino tried to push in from previously, but was unable to find any success. It's going to be a little less aggressive this time. We've got the Warden of Gaveni there just taking down that Rotero drone, doing great work on burning through that utility, but he is going to be moved as the arrows come through. We have a nade as well. There's nowhere for it to go, Des. The team play from NIP is wonderful to watch, and it's Cons who ultimately gets the kill.
And that's exactly what I was thinking we had to watch out for. Where are these nades going to come in towards those mirror positions? Admittedly, I thought they're going through snow and try and get themselves control of reading room to throw nades skywards, but going in through the window works perfectly fine when you can make use of Wizard to help force players away too. Pretty sure as the bug in terms of his gadgetry as well, by the way. He definitely has used some of those firebolts to try and force Gaveni to move, but they've got rid again of the real central player here. It was moving him away, and now they've got to try an unsettled Canadian who has stepped into his shoes.
5 versus 3 as Pino manages to take down Pamba, and as I said, this was always going to be a tougher round for DarkZero, but achieved. He manages to hold on and keep DarkZero fighting a little bit longer, but Diffuser now going down. Can Wizard stick this? 4 versus 2, Nitro goes out, is going to connect. 2 versus 2 in a quick switcheroo as we find ourselves now with DarkZero on the front foot almost, but Psycho, he says no. He goes in and finds the kill onto Canadian. Muzi finishes it onto Achieved, and NIP take themselves onto map point.
We're seeing a real final 20-30 second game here from both teams, it feels. Attempted rushes out of NIP to try and change that, but ultimately it has settled back into that last 10-15 second execute. Big round coming out once again with the right idea out of NIP again to unsettle the player. Gaveni especially is the one they're trying to target here. You know, he's up to, I think, a death in nearly every single round so far outside of one of the ones that DarkZero have won. Just punishing them with long angles, with the utility coming in, really softening up DarkZero, and then going for the jugular.
Really impressive stuff from NIP in that round. And this is why I was so hard on them, Des, round 7 and 8, about that, you know, just play your game, play your attacking game. You don't need, you know, necessarily to be playing those rushes into site and trying to get things done like that, because they can be absolutely clinical when it comes down to it and when they're just focused on those sort of standard takes. And it was very, very well worked from them. So still a good attempt from DarkZero. It was a good effort, getting it back to 2v2. The Nitro from Canadian in the middle of the round there, absolutely brilliant, but just not quite having the legs here, the NA team, and it looks like NIP, it's theirs to lose at this point. It's going down to Kitchen.
And they're going to try again with the Ossa. Now, we saw Ossa brought along for the top floor. Ultimately didn't work out once we'd seen Pino die on the Amara. That removed kind of any of the backside threat that really would have let the Ossa get inside of sight and look to get a plant down. So instead here, probably going to be another bakery push coming in. I imagine we want to see some top floor control established. Again, look back to the first half of this matchup when it was DarkZero on the attack inside. They got the vertical controls. NIP said, okay, we'll just hold down bakery and force the shield away. So I feel that if that can be identified, I like the use of the Echo again. Yep. If they can identify where the Ostra is coming from and again reallocate resources over towards that side of the map, that really could be the key to shutting down this attack from NIP, because DarkZero need to win 3 rounds on the bounce here if they want to be out, well, sorry, 2 on the bounce if they want to send us through to, at the very least, overtime.
Yeah, Canadian just trying to spy out, see whether there was an opportunity maybe for a little bit of outside aggression there. DarkZero certainly going to need a spark inside their powder keg if they're going to get this one back on track. There is no more mistakes from them. They've got to win it out from here. Look at the... I love this from NIP though, Des. look at just the confidence in their movement. Pino straight over the balcony. He knows he's got the drones in ahead of him. He's well ahead of time opening this floor up. And NIP, they look absolutely ready to take this here and now.
And just being really respectful of C4s as well. There are two of them in the back pockets of DarkZero players, so making sure that he's inside of the corridor, can't be C4'd out at least initially. Just hopping around, leaving the table here, look, as well, to open everything up. As Freezer opened up as well, it looks like sight here really is bare for the most part from DarkZero. It's on NIP to recognize that, though, and think about how they're going to pull this off in the last 70 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not going to get away with just dropping into sight and putting the diffuser down on the ground. They're going to have to find a couple of kills, at least on one of the sides. Personally, I'd suggest you go for VIP. Try and get that locked down, try and get Whiskey Bar locked down, and then you can start thinking about getting in and getting the diffuser down, because the rest of DarkZero are towards the other area of the map, in towards Bakery, in towards Prep. So it gives you the space that you need. But with 45 seconds left to go, NIP don't have all the time in the world to start finding those kills.
I love this. Made use of the EE1D to ensure that Cons can get the cross in here as well. The only thing they've got to be mindful of potentially is these yokais, and here comes one now. Thank you very much for the Pip Observer, which will disrupt the first one. Not even having to make use of the shields here, but they've got so much vertical control that this is going to make such a headache for them. They get rid of one of the yokais. Another plant attempt coming in, and here's the back flank attempt, but Moosey's watching the angle.
And in comes the next yokai, this time taken down. Cons surely going to stick this time 15 seconds. Wizard with an important kill onto Gaveni. It's all going NIP's way. Canadian left alive can get no more than a consolation as NIP get themselves another win and take themselves to a record now of 2 wins and 1 loss.
NIP is looking like the stronger team. DarkZero still unable to bring them down. Back after a short break.
I got problems on problems on problems on problems on problems on problems I solve them. I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back, tell me I'm garbage. I'm going through something, that's why I ain't calling. Phone and progression is all that I wanted. The phone and affection, I summon and dub it. Cause I got problems on problems on problems on problems on problems on problems I solve them. I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back, tell me I'm garbage. I'm going through something, that's why I ain't calling. Phone and progression is all that I wanted. The phone and affection, I summon and dub it. Why you be all on my line about nothing? Why won't you go get you $1 or something? Don't hang with it who line for nothing. I see that we different, you riding, I double. I don't do discussions on bragging about hundreds. Don't go to your places, I know that they sunken. Don't call me your brother, I barely could trust it. I talked to a shorty, she bagging the bucket. And I'ma need all of my dollars on corporate, so hand me the money, I divvy the pie. I'ma give all of my people a portion to build them a fortune on flipping the ride. I can't be mixy when iffy the vibe, and 40 on 50 is really the time. Why are you all on my phone like you want me, like you wasn't pushing the kid to the side? I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back, tell me I'm garbage. I'm going through something, that's why I ain't calling.
Well, NIP have just managed to successfully take down the side of DarkZero. So, Pino, congratulations are in order for yourself and for your team. I just want to cast your mind back just a tad. DZ have actually never beaten you guys on a map. Why do you think that might be? Are there any key weaknesses you've noticed in their team?
Yeah, on the attack side, they play too slow, and we are a slow-paced team too. So the play style they play fits with us. So I think that's why. And we always study them a lot, and they don't change anything. So.
So when it came to the ban phase as well, did the Twitch ban take you by surprise? Did it affect the way you guys played whatsoever?
Yeah, we thought they've banned Twitch because of the goyos, but actually it was for the mirrors. They were using mirror all rounds, and surprised us at first, but on the third round we could adapt and attack better.
Well, over in the second half, it kind of looked like there might have been a little bit of miscommunication on that front. They started to bring back the rounds. Were there any key mistakes that you noticed your team were making?
Not mistakes. Actually, we tried to do two fast plays that didn't work out. Like the first half was 4-2, so we wanted to surprise them with the fast pace.
Yeah.
So that's why it went wrong. Then we switched it back to the slow pace, and everything's worked fine.
Would you say that you're a team that does adapt on the fly quite well, going between that fast pace and slow pace?
Yeah, we are that kind of team. We like to play slow, but some rounds we can play fast and surprise the opponent.
All right, well, what's next for you and the team? What are you going to do with the rest of your day to celebrate the victory?
Yeah, now we're gonna wait for the tomorrow match to know who we are playing and study them, talk about the maps, and that's it.
I'm going to let you go ahead and get your prep underway and celebrate with your team. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
How did we anticipate that match was going to turn out? Did you think NIP would come out on top, Anne?
Yeah, but I feel like this could have been a little bit of a faster match if we, you know, hide away some of the rounds where NIP seemed like they were toying with their food, where they were, you know, hiding upstairs and just waiting for players to turn around, and it turned out really bad for them. But yeah, overall, a strong performance from NIP.
How about from your perspective there, X? Did you get the DarkZero you had kind of hoped for?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really hoping for anything out of this team. I look at this team and I think, fantastic two teams going at it. It really played out as expected. We spoke about the form of these two teams coming into this game. We spoke about NIP and the fact that they were doing fantastically well. They're coming in off a win. DarkZero coming in off a loss. That was to be expected. We were expecting a little bit of a conflict here in the way that these two teams faced off. I don't think we were expecting it to be so clear and stark at the beginning, though, because NIP tore away with the first few rounds. DarkZero looked dreadfully slow. We saw 10 seconds left on the clock so many times. They're trying to force plants, they're trying to get things. Nothing was really working for them.
Yeah, they seemed so slow on their attacks, and they seemed so worried about what was going to happen. They seemed to worry about their flanks as well, but then they didn't really drone everything out that well, which led to NIP getting away with hiding in a few spots. And I just sat there wondering, why would you bring a Nomad, for example? You can bring a Dokkaebi. That's easily how you find out where these defenders are hiding, if that is what keeps getting you, well, hitting you from the back after. So I would have loved if they would have brought out a Dokkaebi there. They brought out the Jackal later, which did help eventually, but just slow on attack, and it did punish them.
It was a hesitance. They were droning players. They droned a player like Pino, top of Cocktail. They droned him twice, and he still gets a kill.
Yeah, yeah.
You've got to act off that information. You need to speed up that droning process for it to be a hot drone. Drone, instant contact, or drone, instant utility being thrown in. There was that pause, there was that hesitation, and it really cost them in a number of rounds.
Yeah, and if you have that, where you do have the information, but you don't act off of it, that leads to NIP getting the entry so many rounds.
Yeah.
There were 4 rounds in a row when they themselves got on their attack, where it was actually DarkZero getting the entry. But as soon as you saw that NIP got the entry back, their entry conversion was also really good.
Now talk to me about the mental factor for the side of DZ. Do you think they have what it takes to bounce back from this loss?
There's 2 big losses in a row.
Yeah.
That's something that you've now got to start to think about and think, right, well, last chance to lose. Next time, it's going to be a best of 3 to see who they're going to go up against. You know, obviously we'll have to wait until the games play out for the rest of the day. Maybe there's a bit of a better opportunity in a best of 3 to get into it.
Yeah.
DarkZero had a really slow start. They slowly picked things up, and there were some moments of good play in the game. It wasn't all doom and gloom, but you need more of it. You need more of that consistency, and just need to be a little bit more reactive. I think, again, the timing really came down to it today. And NIP, we've spoken about it, they were playing with their food. It could have been done 2-3 rounds earlier, potentially. We were sat there thinking, oh no, surely not another 7-0 for NA, but fortunately for them, it wasn't at least.
Do we think the best of three is going to be their comfort zone? Will we see a different kind of caliber of play coming out from them, maybe a little bit more comfortable in the best of threes?
I feel like there's two things you'll have to keep in mind with this. A, I think the playstyle of NIP is really difficult to play against. As they themselves mentioned, we either like to play really slow and then we just hit you really fast, which makes it very difficult to play against you. But it would give you a little bit more time to anticipate what your enemy is doing and react to that, because I feel like that was lacking from DarkZero today.
Well, of course, I love it. Honestly, the energy here from a lot of these teams is absolutely electrifying, but that was Team Liquid chanting away, and now we've got some chiming up coming on from the side of G2 as well. If you want to find out more, here's some more as well. We will catch you after the break, where we're going to be diving into the next game.